Hey, hey, Mystic Magic Podcast fans. We are in for a delicious show today because our guest today is Reverend Michael Terranova. And Michael Terranova is an independent New Thought minister, and he promotes the teachings of Emma Curtis Hopkins. He's been studying Emma's teachings since 1998, and he has published all of her writings and created self-treatments, which is a compilation of self-treatment and other published works. I've been digging into that one personally myself lately. He studied with Reverend Marcia Sutton for 20 years and has been called to do that work. So we'll probably talk about some of the kingdom consciousness work. All of the works are published with ISBN numbers, and no previous works have been published with them. So people don't need to get a hold of the publisher, but can find all of them on Amazon and listed in books in print. He's the owner of Wise Women Press. He's created and maintains the websites www.emmacurtishopkins.com and www.wisewomenpress.com. And they publish all of Emma's major works as well as 23 of her Bible interpretation series, which I just discovered, which is wonderful. And there are still 5 Bible interpretations to publish. And then he's going to publish a book to show what disciples are in which Bible interpretation series. And so he was first licensed as a minister at the teaching of the Inner Christ in San Diego in 1979. And he has studied various religions. He became a religious science practitioner at the Abundance Life Center in Vancouver, Washington in 1996. He's ordained in the Christ Church of Co-Creation in Portland, Oregon in 2009. And he has created an Emma Curtis Hopkins group where different excerpts from Emma's Drops of Gold are posted daily. And he's going to keep publishing Emma's life and information as long as he is here. Welcome, Michael, to Mystic Magic.
Excuse me, that is right. No one has ever published all of her stuff, and they've never made them available to the general public. You had to find them. For me, it's my ministry. And for any of you that are ministers, know that when you're called, you don't have a choice. You have to answer. For me, I'm not leaving this until everything of hers is published that I have in my hands, which is considerable. So Emma definitely was a great influence on many of the New Thought leaders of today. So I have a whole lot of history of all of that. I will ultimately be writing a book with this in it, but I am not done publishing. When I'm done publishing, I will write stuff out of here.
Okay. Well, I know that you're dedicated. Now, you're the owner of Wise Women Press for like 17 years now, right?
Yes. Wise Women Press was formed, I guess, about 17 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. And it was formed by Ruth Miller, who is an author of some of our books, and 2 other women. And they invited me to join. So I joined, and it turned out that I had the most go power of Emma's teachings. So everybody else, 2 of the women left, and Ruth Miller, I bought out her interest. So I am the owner of Wise Woman Press. I do publish other authors too.
Well, Emma is my main mystic mama. After the Black Madonna, and my favorite male mystic is Howard Thurman. So tell me, what brought your admiration or dedication or both about Emma Curtis Hopkins? I can certainly understand it, but what's your experience?
Around, I guess it was 98, that Reverend Marcia Sutton offered a class on Emma Curtis Hopkins. It was a book called The Gospel Series, which was not written by Emma. Many of those books published by Emma were not written by her. They were put together from her journals. And this was put together, so we studied it one chapter, the first 6 chapters, one chapter a week. Then we took those 6 chapters and did them once a month. We did the same thing with the second 6 chapters. Then we did Scientific Christian Mental Practice, which is probably her most popular book. And it was not by her, it was taken from her journal, started being published in 1935. She died in 25, so there's no way that she did the actual writing it. And after that, I wanted more books. Well, the lady that was publishing them, her name was Marge Flotron. She died. So I want more books. I want more books.
Well, I noticed that you
Go ahead.
I noticed that you have started publishing some contemporary writers like Kathy Ann Lewis. Are there other contemporary writers that you published at Wise Women Press?
Oh, yes. I did publish some of Kathy Ann Lewis's books. She's taken over publishing her own stuff right now. But I do publish some books by Christine Green, by Reverend Uta Maria Sadia, and Kath De Palma. She's a minister, a religious science minister. I published their books, and other people have approached me, but I only publish books that are metaphysical and spiritual. No histories and stuff of other stuff or psychic stuff.
I noticed.
Go ahead.
No, I noticed that you have a Fillmore and a Holmes book in your stalls as well.
Okay, yeah, there's a it's called the Path of Power series. They were ultimately written for teenagers, but I find that those books are used by ministers that want to give a Sunday sermon. There was enough data in each of those books to put together who they were, where they came from, and what their beliefs were. Ruth Miller is definitely one of the best authors. We are publishing one of her books called Understanding the Hidden Power. It is actually a CSL accredited course. Understanding Emma is truly one of the things that I would like to have everybody do. She influenced people all the way from the Fillmores. She ordained the Fillmores. They were part of her organization. Annie Ricks Millets from the Holmes churches. There's still one of those churches in Alameda. And then one of the
Home of Truth, right?
Home of Truth. One of my favorite ministers that studied with her was Ernest Holmes. He truly got mysticism. He truly understood what mysticism is. And it wasn't her words. People that studied with Emma got a direct transmission. It wasn't just the words, it just came through spiritually. So, and people, for me, as I look at a lot of the writers today, they're repeaters of truth that was presented by Emma. There are many people, and I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that, but the essential truth came from Emma. In the late 1800s, she created her ministry. And what I've understood is at that time, there were other things that came into consciousness. Theosophy took over. They translated the Bhagavad Gita into English. And as I look at the writers of those days, you can see that they're talking about Hindus. They talking about what happens in the Hindu religion.
Right.
So as I read her stuff, I could tell where it came in. Because she starts talking about the Hindu mystic. Here's what they do. So the history of her is as important to me as her teachings, because they influence people at different times.
Right. I know I didn't really get mysticism until I started studying Emma. I got like creativity from Emerson and I got the law from Troward, but it was Emma that brought that really special dimension into my life. And I was able to transcend in a way that I hadn't before then. So that was really wonderful. So why did you decide to become a publisher?
Well, when Marge Flotron died, I expected Marcia to start publishing her books because she was really into Emma. Well, at that point, she says, no. So then I tried to find other people that were going to publish. Well, I wanted this one called Esoteric Philosophy, and I found somebody selling it on the internet in this old onion skin paper. Your hands get black from handling this stuff. I bought that, and then I published that. So that was the start of my actual publishing. But then I did join Wise Woman Press, and it really became, I came on fire with it. It just, in a way, I feel sorry for the other women because I was pressing. They wanted to get out so much stuff. I'm doing high, man, I'm in high gear. They're in second gear. So in a way, I feel bad about how it happened, but I feel really good that I am the publisher.
Great. Now, we were talking earlier, you were saying that there are a lot of misconceptions that people have about Emma. You want to share a couple of those?
But the biggest one is that Melinda Kramer was her student. I published one of Melinda Kramer's books so people can see the difference in their approach. Melinda Kramer discovered God in her own way. Emma discovered her own way. They were compatriots more than anything. I know that Emma did go to San Francisco and she did teach there, and I know that Melinda Kramer was there. So there was an involvement. They were separate teachers in separate organizations. And how Divine Science was created by Emma Curtis, by Melinda Kramer. But then in Denver, they created, an organization was created that became Divine Science. One of Emma's students, Kate Bingham, went there and taught one of the Brooks sisters. I believe it was a healing that took place. So somehow they got together. Melinda Kramer came there and they talked to Melinda. And so they created Divine Science. So Divine Science has always been not as cohesive as other organizations. It seems like even now there are separate flavors of Divine Science. I don't know why, but they don't seem to be as cohesive as religious science, which is CSL now, or Unity. Unity seems to be as cohesive as CSL.
Yeah. Now, what particular aspect of Emma was most intriguing to you?
Christ. A lot of the new thought teachings do not include Christ. I was raised as a Catholic, so there became a time when I didn't really follow the Catholic religion, but I had a connection with Christ, Jesus Christ. So then when Emma's teachings came in, she teaches the Bible. I mean, she teaches Jesus Christ. She teaches that the things in the Bible, all those stories are not just stories, they're us. They are us. So interpreting her stuff is more important instead of looking at the contemporary way of the heaven and hell teachers. It's a lot different. She's not talking about heaven and hell. She's talking about living and having Christ be your life. So that really has involved me because I have a connection with that Christ presence. We all do. We call it different things, but it is that presence. So that's what intrigued me, and it's really because I do have a great connection with Christ.
What do you know about the relationship between the Fillmores and Emma?
It was a close relationship. They studied with her, then they created their own organization. She did ordain them, which was really, I actually have copies of their ordination certificates. And she at that point, everything was called Christian Science, because the basic thing was, let's scientifically teach that Christ is the truth, that this teaching is what it is. Well, at that point, Mary Baker Eddy had better lawyers than anybody, so she actually became owner of the name Christian Science. But basically, that to me, this is Christian Science. We're teaching Christ is the truth. We don't call it Christian Science because it would attract people negatively.
Right.
So I just published one of her books that was called First Lessons in Christian Science. It was actually the book that was taught at her seminary. We changed it and called it First, I forget the name right now. I'm so jacked up, but it's First Lessons. Where's the book? Oh, well, here it is. This is the proof of it. First Lessons. Emma Curtis Hopkins' first lessons from her journals, which actually is many of the books written by her that are attributed to her, they come from her journals. So this one right here, everybody thinks Class Lessons of 1888 was the book. This is the book. But no one has ever wanted to publish it because it was First Lessons of Christian Science. So Ruth Miller helped me and we changed the name, First Lessons from the Journals of Emma Curtis Hopkins. This is the final of her books that we published. I do have a lot of magazine articles and a lot of other short articles that I'm going to put together once I'm done with the Bible interpretations and the Bible book. So there's still information out there. And I'm not leaving until whatever I can get out there is there. Because I've watched other people that dedicate their ministry, not just to religious science or anything, but they have not completed, which is a great pain to me because it's uncompleted works. If I'm going to study anything, I want to complete the works. So people, you can know I'm getting it out there.
So tell me what you know about Emma's relationship to Ernest Holmes.
Ernest studied with her. The first time he went there, she always wore a big hat and she was always real stately. So when he came in for the first few lessons, he would sit down and she would talk and then he'd leave. But after a few more lessons, he started talking to her and he really got a close connection with her. So I have a copy of I spoke at one of the classes in Silomar where he talks about Emma. So he definitely really, and that's where he says he got mysticism. Not everybody gets mysticism. They can understand that there is mysticism, but it's a feeling. It is a presence. It's not just a I know. It is an encompassing presence. So that's what he got from her. And his teaching changed after that. His brother, Fenric, talks about that in I don't remember where. I've read so many things. For me, it's hard to find what's in what book and what people want to go, oh, what book does she say this in? I don't know. I've gone through, proofed it, and it's gone. I want to read it. Okay. I don't remember all of
There's a little bit. Yeah, there's a little bit of that in the Celestial piece that he wrote.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Oh, that's the Bhagavad Gita written in his own language. The story of the Bhagavad Gita, really, I never understood that till I was reading something a few months ago about, oh, that's what it was, because I could never get into it. It's like, this is, because I've never been into poetry, but in the last few years, I'm starting to be able to get into poetry, not just factual stuff.
I noticed you got the Yogananda on the wall over there. What's your affinity with him?
Well, in the teaching of the Inner Christ, when I was a minister there, a lot of their teaching came from Babaji, who was actually a great mystic, who is still a great mystic involved in a lot of organizations. Well, my grandmother was an old world Italian. She's really broken English. And she went to see Yogananda. She was one of his teachers. My dad told me, he says, oh, I shook his hand. It's like, wow. So since Babaji was so involved there, he's involved in my life. When those teachers are in your family, they're there. So for me, you're right. Yogananda is really a special being. He created a whole lot of organizations here. I have friends that are in his Kriya Yoga organizations. Yes, Yogananda was a great teacher.
So tell me, you do house painting, and how is that tied to your ministry, or is it? I mean, is it meditative for you, or how do you experience that?
The biggest thing I know about how painting and my publishing are associated, when I was studying with Reverend Marcia Sutton, she says, you know what? Your skills you develop as painting, You use those in creating these books. I go into details. I look into the stuff that people don't look into. I know in my painting, when I walk in a house, I see things. I see bad places on the walls. I see things that people don't see because it's automatic, comes to me. I see what's out first, then I'll make sure it's in. So for me, it's been really interesting to see what's out. I'd rather see what's in first, but.
Okay, so paying attention to detail.
Oh, really?
And like that.
So I've been painting houses since I've been working as painting since I was 12 years old. My mother told my father, hey, babysit him. Well, I became a painter because he said, hey, there's some hands there. So I painted for many years, 60 years. It's a long time to be painting.
And now you studied various religions in your earlier years when you became a practitioner in Vancouver, Washington. What brought you into this teaching?
A longing to know God. Before I really got into the teaching, I got involved in a past life regression group where we would regress each other. And as I look back, those past lives, I was a minister, I was a friar, I was a highwayman. So I could take a look at, I've been involved in a lot of different things in my history. I do believe in past life regressions. I've seen enough of them and done enough of them. So it's really good to be able to take things from those teachings into my understanding now, because I've studied the Kabbalah, I studied numerology, many other teachings. Definitely the Tarot. The Tarot is a great study. That's what a lot of the stuff comes from the Kabbalah. It's the story of that presence all the way through the world. It really is. All these teachings are to keep people in touch with that presence. Not always call God, not always call Christ. But studying those teachings, I can see that they're all to attract us to the presence. Whatever you call it, the presence. So each of those teachings add little to my understanding, but the dogma in some of them are just beyond my acceptance. And yes, dogma is one of the things that puts people off.
Right. When you look at the Kabbalah and Tarot, we get a lot of our ancient wisdom from those teachings, and the symbolism and the vibrations of those say much more than the words do, right?
Oh, yes. The tarot cards, you actually could break them down to certain little, each card has maybe an X, just pictures on there that key, they're called keys. They key into that area of the subconscious. Around 1200 AD, I think that one of the first tarots were created. And why it was created was all these wise guys got together and realized that Alexandria had all the information. Oh, but it was gone. So all the information of spirit coming into the world and all those processes was put down in these 22 cards. The 20, they call them major arcana. Well, there are, I don't know how many cards the total deck has, but these 52 are actually the story. And embedded in there, people use these for fortune telling and all, so that they're not going away. No one's going to burn down everybody's cards. So the truth is always out there. That's why they were created.
Right. But it's much more than fortune telling, because we have the inner power to direct our lives. So thank you for bringing that into the conversation. Can you tell me what mystic moment you had in your life that stands out the most?
In a way, it's not a spiritual event. When I was much younger and into partying and drinking and all kind of things, I was at a party and got into an argument with somebody, and I got stabbed. The guy stabbed me, and I'm laying on the couch and going, oh man. And the ambulance attendants come, they carry me out. And on the way out, I hear, life goes on within you and without you. Immediately I knew, oh, I'm here right now, but so what? That there's greater things than me and this guy that who just drank a bunch of beer, you know. There's something really deep. So it was really a moment that stands out still. That I'm here physically. If I'm not here physically, oh well.
Right. Your substance is still going on.
Yep. It was quite enlightening.
Yeah. Now, what is it that you would like for our audience to know about? Is it something online or any kind of event or any particular book that you want to draw our attention to, or just the whole library of Wise Woman Press?
For me, it's the whole library of Wise Woman Press. People seem to read Scientific Christian Mental Practice first. Since it was put together by students, it's not, high mysticism is her deepest work. I've read it once. To me, it's too deep for me. I don't get enough out of it. I mean, people get it. I read scientific. The Bible interpretations are her best works. They were published for 10 years in the Interocean newspaper. Every Sunday, she published. Every 3 months is one book. So the 28 books are 28 quarters of years. And they started out pretty much Christian kind of stuff teaching, but she brings the world in. As they go on, she brings in things that are going on in the world so that it helps you to understand the Bible isn't just this book that tells all these stories. There are stories because she tells how it affects us. Yeah. In each book, she interprets certain disciples, but she brings in a whole lot of other stuff. For me, the Bible interpretations are the best of her works.
Yeah. And there's something about eternality that I learned from Emma on a psychic level. And so I appreciate that she had a little bit of a disdain for matter. I mean, she dismissed matter for the most part and really focused on spirit. And that's where I resonate with her most, because that's something you can't really explain, but you have to just tune into, right?
Yes, it took me the longest time. There is no reality in matter. Boy, I heard that. I felt it. It's the essence beyond it all, which is her teachings. She wants you to get it, that it's not just the table, it's not just the door, it's not that we interact with each other. It's the depth of the interaction that it is.
Yeah. Well, you are such a deep soul, and not only are you dedicated to Emma, but you have a very keen sense of spirit. And so I just appreciate who you are and the diligence with which you are handling Wise Woman Press and all the other information that you've been sharing and learning, whether it was the kingdom consciousness, or whether it was something in the high mysticism or tarot or Kabbalah. And I'm just glad you came on Mystic Magic.
Well, me too. And it's always good to hear somebody mention kingdoms of consciousness, because studying with Marcia Sutton, I was there and one of the guinea pigs as those processes were developed. So luckily, anyone that doesn't know about the kingdom of consciousness, it would be good to go to look up Christ Church of Co-Creation. That's where the original stuff was created by Reverend Lloyd Strom and Marcia Sutton. Kingdom of Consciousness is really, I could do a whole, you could do a whole thing on Kingdom of Consciousness. It seems like you know what it is.
Yeah. That's the seed of the co-creation process, right?
Yes.
Well, you are.
It's always good to hear that other people have those teachings.
But yeah, and I appreciate that the breadth and the depth of your study and your concentration is something that others can be blessed by through the publishing work that you do. Thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, and thank you for inviting me.
This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives.